All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is the 20th, no, it's not the 22nd. It's the 2nd of December, 2024. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a via donation event. If people wish to make donations, they can make donations to PayPal via PayPal, and our PayPal ID is info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And if you wish to get in touch with us for our bank details, you can do. That would be via email, which is info@freedomthinking.co.uk again. And yeah, if you're watching this in catch up and you wish to make a donation, please do. It is greatly appreciated. It helps Jenny and I keep going with our work, keeps putting food on the table, helps pay for broken down vans that I've got. So yeah, if we could raise 12 or 1400 quid tonight, that would be wonderful. Pay for a new gearbox. But no, welcome everyone. I'm getting a guest speaker at some point. The chair's set up, it's got a cushion on it, and that's for Jen, my wife. I consider myself to be the beauty and her the brains. So yeah, so you just have to bear with until she shows up. What else have I got to say? Yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with us privately as well, we work privately with people, give us a shout if we can help, if you think we can be of any assistance. Now, I haven't got, as I do these community groups, I generally don't have anything in mind that I particularly want to talk about. I like to be present with the people that show up. So with that in mind, if there is anybody on this call that wishes to discuss something that is something they don't want putting out on the internet, just want to keep it within this group, then please just shout up, just say, can we just stop the recordings? I want to talk about something private, and we can stop the recording, pause the recording, and then we'll resume it once the conversations come to an end. Obviously, it won't affect people who are watching in catch up. You just won't hear what was going on. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to you lot. Like I say, bear with me. I'm so tired tonight, but hopefully I'll have enough wits about me to plug in and get we can have some nice conversations. Yeah, so I'm going to hand it over to you lot. Has anybody got any questions, reflections, or observations that they'd like to share or ask? And by the way, when you ask these questions, you're not just asking me, you're asking a whole group of people. So there's a few different realities on this screen right now, a few different perspectives. So please shout up. Actually, I want to address something that somebody spoke to us about earlier on. My apologies. This is a good friend of mine, somebody I love dearly. Had an accident. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know how it came about. But ended up with a pretty nasty fracture of the hip. And this is actually coming through Jenny, so I didn't get the full memo, but it was something that somebody wished to talk about tonight. And I think effectively the conversation was along the lines of, and I may be corrected, was along the lines of, sometimes you just don't see shit coming. And sometimes life can hit us in a way that is inconvenient. It was unexpected, painful, I think this individual spent a few nights in hospital. It was 5, could be wrong. Just trying to, it's just through eavesdropping onto a conversation, so bear with me. But I think the conversation was asked to be orientated around, I suppose, dealing with life's challenges, I suppose it will boil down to. Jen would probably be able to speak a little bit more clearly to this because she actually had the conversation. But I'm hoping I've got the gist. I'm hoping that I've got the gist. Dealing with life's uncertainties, and when things hit us out of the blue, when these things come along and sideswipe us, we've all experienced that. I know everybody's experienced it because you're human beings. We're human beings. And you are alive on this earth. And this earth is fucking mental. It's a mental place to come to. This earth has got polarities of all descriptions. It's got the most unbelievably loving beings on it, and it's got the most destructive beings on it. It brings with it challenges that we have to face throughout our lifetimes. None of us escape this. None of us escape the challenge. You know, one day you're mindlessly walking down the street, next minute you're in hospital with a broken hip. One minute you're minding your own business, the next minute your country's declared war on another country or been declared war upon. One minute you think everything's going great, and then something totally unexpected just smacks you in the face. Driving home last night myself. Thankfully, given the amount of miles that we're doing, we're driven up from Essex all the way up to Cumbria, so that's 300 miles. The vehicle decided to drop its gearbox at within about 15 miles of home, and I managed to limp it back to about 5 miles from home and get towed home. Didn't see that coming. And we despise it a lot of the time. Human beings don't like the unfamiliar. Human beings don't like shock. We don't like to discover that the unknown, the unexpected has taken place. We don't like that. We like our comfort, and our comfort more often than not lies in the idea, and it's a foolish idea, that somehow we live in some form of known. It's an idea that allows us to walk through this world in some form of comfort. The idea that we live in some form of known. The idea that we've ever lived in some form of known. I remember Jenny once, she told me this story. I never went to this retreat of hers. I think it was the last retreat of Jen and Rude. And I don't think Rudy actually showed up. I think it was actually just Jenny's retreat. Now I think about it. And it was with Robin Charbot and somebody else. Tell me his other name. Who was it? Robin and anybody know? His mate. They wrote Still Power. No, they didn't. They wrote Insight Principles. They do a lot in business. Robin Sharburton, forgive me, I've forgotten now. But they did this kind of little setup where they called it ABC. And A had to speak for 30 seconds about something that's going on in their life that they're finding difficult. And then B and C had to speak about it as though they'd walked down the aisle of a supermarket, I think it was said, and you overhear a conversation of somebody, and you just have a conversation with your friend. You're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to solve their problems. You just heard something and you just had a conversation about it. And so Jenny was asked to be she was filming at this point, and she was asked to come away from the cameras and be letter A person, sit down, please, and share with us something that's hard for you at the moment. And Jen was pretty reluctant to do it, but she did. She sat down and she said, I found myself in a great unknown. I don't know what's going to happen with my family. I don't know what's going to happen with my friends, my career, my business, my home, where I'm going to live. I have suddenly found myself in a great unknown. And it was within one of the first things that Robin and Ken Manning said. Can't remember which one it was. She said, I just remember them saying, isn't it interesting? She thinks she lives more in the unknown now than she ever did. Jen said it hit her like a ton of bricks. How true that statement is. None of us know what's going to happen from one day to the next. We never have. And I often feel that the people who struggle the most in life are more often than not, those who try and cling to the familiar. Try and create a life that doesn't change or are resistant to change. Because if you take one look at this universe, you observe this universe, you just stick a telescope on a star. 10 minutes later, it will not be within your scope. It'll have moved its way out of your scope's trajectory. You watch a single leaf on a tree come from a bud, expand into its full magnificence only to start decaying back to fall into the ground and be nourishment for trees and other little beings. You look at any cell in your body, it changes. Look at your mind, it changes. Everything is in a constant state of change. Always has been. People who realize they don't need to be afraid of change. They can take a moment in the now to reflect upon the fact that they're here now, in spite of everything that's gone on in their life, in spite of the hardest times. I was speaking with a beautiful, beautiful girl, somebody I love dearly the other day, who's been through the most horrific childhood I don't want to talk about. Horrific. And I sat with her on this bed. She was confiding in me, and I said, but look at you. In spite of everything, you sit in front of me and you're okay. And she just smiled and burst into tears and went, I am. Never destroyed her. And nothing's ever destroyed any of us. Even the hardest times that we never thought we'd ever get over, those depths where you feel like you cannot go on. You haven't got the energy to put one leg in front of the other. where you are at such a low point in your awareness, in your consciousness, in your mind, in your life, that taking your own life seems like the most logical option to relieve yourself of the pain. And it didn't destroy us. It never destroyed us. When we take a moment to reflect upon that, to reflect upon that idea that experience, because that's all we're talking about really, experience will never destroy us. Experience is the nature of reality. Reality is experience. Experience is reality. Life is God experience, infinitely so. Infinite God experience, for want of a better word, infinite consciousness experience, infinite divine experience. Why experience? Why infinite? Well, just look at this one planet. There are people being born now and dying now. Birth and death only exists in the now. And there's every conceivable thing taking place, birth, death, all these different realities, things coming into creation, things leaving creation. Every single blade of grass is a conscious experiential being. Every single cell within this blade of grass is a conscious experiential being. Every single tree is a conscious experiential being. Every single cell within the tree is a conscious experiential being. Every single bird is a conscious experiential being. Every single cell within a feather of a bird is a conscious experiential being. You can remove these things from the living organism and they continue to have life. They survive. Anybody who's looked into the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton will know that. Epigenetics. Livingness is what reality is. And the beautiful thing about this livingness is it's never been destroyed. Not even in death. That was last week's conversation, an awful lot around death. One of my favorite subjects, in all honesty. You want to see somebody get present, it's when they think they're going to die. It's a great lesson. It's a great teacher is death, I think. He teaches us to live now. He teaches us to enjoy life. He teaches us to do what we actually want to do rather than live the world that we feel obliged to do, or perhaps we've been trained to live in. Death helps us to escape that stupid, systematic world that we've all adopted for whatever reason. Some of us are starting to leave behind because we know at some point we're going to die. And whilst we're here, we want to live a life of fulfillment because we have the option. We either can or we don't have to. It's up to us. But if I do know one thing when it comes to suffering and hard times, and when the shit hits the fan, the way isn't clear. How am I going to get through this? I do know one thing, and I know this to be true for everybody on earth. The way will just unravel. It always has, and it always will. And on the other side of it, we will have learnt something. We'll be wiser. more equipped. You see, the hard times are the things that people try and escape. Me too. We run away from the hard times. We think life's malfunctioning when we get a challenge, a life challenge. Some life challenges are fucking hard. But they also deeply humble us. I remember speaking to a dear friend of mine who had an affair, and he's beaten himself up for years about having an affair. I said, "But what silver lining have you got from it? What lesson did you learn from it?" And he said, "I suppose I am more compassionate to other people who had affairs, where I never used to be." I'm like, wow. So on the other side of your hard time, you were gifted with compassion and love for other people. There is no greater gift to receive than that. I don't know. I don't know what lessons people learn from their suffering. My guest speaker's just arrived. But I do know that they're there. And I do know that we don't need to run away from hard times. You can't escape them. Because you can't escape your own mind. I remember you saying that when you went down to South Africa, you thought you were going to turn into some, like from this anxious person into this really cool traveler, kind of bit hippie and bit
Cool.
just a bit cooler than you are. Never happened. Even in South Africa, it never happened. But you traveled all the way down there and you found it just like, oh, here I am.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Wherever you go, there you are. You know, and this is the thing about hard times. It is a perspective of mind. It is a perspective of our thought. It's a perspective that we're conjuring up, creating. That's what we're starting to uncover as human beings. That's one of the gifts we're starting to uncover as human beings, that reality isn't outside of us. It is an experiential event. It's a dance of consciousness, whatever that be, whatever the spirit is, whatever the livingness of life is, it is an experiential event. But whatever that livingness of life is, whatever that spirit is, it's who and what we actually are. And we're not. We are not that we create. Those are aspects. Those are potentials. That's why one person could look at, I know people who've got ill, and I'm not a massive fan of getting ill. I've got a fly in my tea. Not a massive fan of getting ill. But I know of people who get ill and they're really, really grateful because they got time to stop. I just had time just to just do nothing. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. So I just enjoyed the stillness of it. And then there's people who are like, I can't be ill. I haven't got time to be ill. I'm fucking everything in between. I was trying to talk to that lady's question earlier on. Can you refresh me on what it was?
I think just how sometimes we can get a bit arrogant and kind of think, how could this happen to me, kind of thing. It's kind of around thinking that we know something is what I heard in it. And also what you were speaking to, I read out a little bit of a post that a friend had written. I think she'd written it a while ago. I just saw it on Facebook. I read it a little bit to you last night. And it was saying how when she was having acupuncture once, she sort of could feel like the fear and it had been really uncomfortable. And then the acupuncturist just said, like, let it in, welcome it in. And she sort of looked at her like, what? And she went, yeah, just take each needle into your paw and welcome it. And she said it was like, it felt so counterintuitive, but she kind of relaxed, and each needle she just sort of welcomed in. And she then said it was like this shift in learning for her when she realised, what needles in life do we avoid? And grief was the one that she came. She said, like, grief could be an emotional needle that we think is a bad thing and we push it away. But actually, when we welcome it in, when it comes, there's so much healing in it, in the same way there is with acupuncture. But it was just a really beautiful. I'll try and find
It's a
it
nice
and post
metaphor,
it.
isn't it?
But I think there seems to be a misunderstanding that there's an understanding that we're somehow going to get, that we don't have to feel feelings that we don't like. But it seems to me that we're built to feel and we're built to experience, and those feelings are included in that. So there has to be a place and a value and a reason or a purpose. And I think that's, I was thinking about everything to do with evolution and nature and the physical. Everything learns and evolves and changes and moves. And I guess with life, all of these feelings and experiences come to us for learning. And I think, again, it's going up to that lady's question from earlier, it's like, in a way, even though when we get ill or we get hurt, it can feel unfair or kind of, why me, or it shouldn't have been me. But when we let that quieten down, if we can listen, there'll be learning. And I think that's something that's coming to me more and more, which has been spoken about in the principles loads, about listening. But listening, I kind of heard it as a doing, but more and more seeing that actually presence is listening. Being in the now is listening to what is. And I think that's the value and that's the learning. But not having to run away or shy away from life, feelings, experience, reality, any of it. And I think it's interesting. So often, if someone wants to do a one-to-one and it's over a very specific issue, and then you want to talk about the principles, you want to point them back to what is, what's creating the simplicity. But it's really hard if you think you've got a problem that you want to be fixed by this understanding. You can't really listen to the understanding because you're listening to something to fix. And really, the only thing that is kind of going on is that you've created an idea of a problem that needed fixing, a feeling. We've become afraid of a feeling, whether it be anxiety, depression, grief, any of it. We've become afraid of a feeling. And the principles isn't about not having those feelings, it's about understanding what they are, respecting them, learning from them, listening to them, not listening to the content, not listening to the story that will run along with it, but listening and letting it be a guide. Is this taking me towards peace or away from peace? Just noticing it. It's going, like, I know that there's been times when I've been in grief, but it's felt so perfect, and so I felt so part and present of life that I'm really grateful for those experiences. And there's been other times I have not wanted to feel it and I've tried to push it away and do everything to avoid it. But I feel like the principles has kind of been this gift in our lifetime of the simplicity of all of that noise is after what is. So we will have weather, we will have experience and feelings and moods and all of that, but there's a deeper stillness in us that listens and sees and watches. And I think when we know that's true, we recognize that, we don't really watch and listen and connect with the stories in the same way. So I don't know if that speaks to it. But
Go.
I always say it's weird. Sort of I'm putting Lucia to bed and I have to put the light off because otherwise she just goes, "I'm awake, I'm awake." Like, I know you're awake at the moment, but we're here so you can go to sleep. But if I turn the light off, within like 5-10 minutes, she does go to sleep. But then I'm sort of laid in the dark and I have to let myself get really sleepy. And then, like, as soon as I realise she's properly asleep, I have to like, right, get up. But otherwise, I then do fall asleep. So I miss. But then I come in and I have no idea what's been asked or said. So
I was trying to speak to.
let's hope that's relevant.
Yeah, I hope that if this person's watching, that's relevant. All right. Anybody else? Has anybody got anything they want to share? Any questions, reflections, or observations?
Just an observation. What's your take on synchronicities?
Go on. Can you expand the question?
Well, I mean, I don't know what they mean, but I enjoy getting them. I mean, today, my sister Clara visited, and just before she left, we were talking about Catherine's cousin, and I mean, he died recently, sadly, but he was like the Rain Man. Did you ever see that film?
Yeah.
Well, he was like that. He had this phenomenal memory. But anyway, so my sister left, and Catherine went out the door at the same time, and I put YouTube on, and this lady, she started talking about the Rain Man. I thought, bloody hell, what's the chances of that? And then later on in the afternoon, I was watching this other video. It was something about I watched this podcaster, and it's called The Next Level Soul, and this lady was talking about NDEs, this, that, and the other. And then, and she was also a medium, a psychic or whatever. And then she mentioned, oh no, sorry, before that, I'd just gone to the garage to put our chickens away. And I keep the back garage door propped up with a brush so that they can go into the garage to shelter from the rain. But there's a huge pile of leaves there. So I swept them out of the way, came back in, put a video on, and this woman mentioned leaves. I thought, bloody hell, straight away. So, I mean, I took both of those as a synchronicity, and I actually felt, I don't know why, but I found it quite pleasing that I'd had them, and I couldn't work out any meaning to them. That was it, really, just sharing that.
Cool.
You got something to-
I got anything I want to say.
If you're baffled, you can come back next week.
No. No, I think it's the word for me, synchronicity. Would another word be coincidence?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And would another word be miracle? I don't know. I know synchronicity carries some with it, in my mind, some level of intelligence within it. Like if it's synchronistic, if that's the right word, then to me it speaks to some kind of divinity. If somebody calls it a coincidence, that would have no meaning, to me, in my language, in my understanding of the word. I think one of the beautiful things to recognize is that different, like, words mean different things to different people. That is, when we're talking about we all live in separate realities, even down to a word, it means something different to everybody. So I'm just having to get clear with my language and just check we're all on the same page. When I think about somebody talking about coincidence, it was just a coincidence, I tend to find in my language that means there was no kind of intelligence, no divinity within it. Some kind of like random. Yeah, that's a good word. Some kind of random event that's just taken place. That just so happens to be like the last random event that took place. But then there's these, what I would consider to be miracles. And I love miracles. Synchronicity to me seems to be, if it's a spectrum, then synchronistic, they'd be on the synchronicities, and miracle would be on the same spectrum somewhere. And I mean, I've seen enough into this life to believe wholeheartedly in synchronicity and miracle. I don't personally subscribe to this is where my tiredness is starting to kick in now. Coincidence. I don't necessarily line up with coincidence, because to say coincidence would be to, I feel, do a deep disrespect to consciousness. Not that it would ever take offense, but no, you know, I feel like the more we elevate in consciousness, the more aware we become of synchronistic events. And the more we rise in consciousness, the more miraculous events start to take place for us. I mean, we could reel off tons. I mean, one of my favorite ones was there was nobody sharing the principles in prisons in the UK. And I asked one of my guides that I met in 2013, through leaving this earthly dimension, going into a different dimension, a real low point in my life. I asked her for help, and within a few days, a lady turns up lost at my drive gate. And she was very, very smartly dressed. It was a Sunday, and I had to go and do an emergency tree surgery job because a limb had fallen off into the road as I'd driven under it, not to, like, within 5 minutes of me driving to price up this job to come back on this Sunday. Limb had fallen into, big oak limb fallen into the road, hanging in the road. I could just fit underneath it. So I tidied it up and then went back, and I thought, I'll just wash my kit. I never washed my kit. Washing the van. My van never got washed. I forgot what colour it was. And a lady turns up lost at my drive gates, and I asked her where she was going, and she said she was going to the Gateway Inn. Long story short, I gave her a lift, and this little voice came in my head and said, ask her what she does for a living. So I said, do you mind me asking you what to do for a living? I think I've missed a bit out. I sent all these letters off to prisons trying to get programming. I was going to do it for free. Just let me just come in, let me show you what's capable with what we have. And nobody ever got back to me, which is why I got really despondent. And then despondent, I just said, Luce, please send me somebody to get into working with prisons. And I was driving up the road. This voice said, ask her what she does for a living. And she just said, I've just taken a managerial role with a charity that works with the well-being of offenders. She said, that's why I'm in Kendal. She said, and I feel so stupid because I should have got off the train in Kendal, but I've stayed on too many stops, and I've got off in Staveley, and I don't know why I've done that. She said, I feel so stupid. She was saying. I was like, I knew it. She said, what do you mean you knew it? I said, I think you were meant to stop on the train to meet me. And I got to the pub and I bought her a drink, and I sat down with her. I said, do you mind if I sit down with you and can I talk to you? And I spoke to her for about an hour and a half. And at the end of this hour and a half, she said, I want you working with me. You've got to go for an interview. There's an interview coming up. She said, I think it was within a couple of weeks. She said, I want you at that interview. She said, I want you working with me. She said, you'll have to go through the interview. And I went there. There was 30 odd people. And I got the job. I got to go into the prisons and start sharing the principles. You know, and coincidence. Yeah, fucking awesome one. You know, and the more, I think this ties into the conversation with the unknown as well. Because when you realize that life's always moving forward, it's always moving forward. It never stands still. Dark times pass. We know that. They last longer the more we interfere with them. But the more we accept the movement of life, the more we find this thing called faith. and knowing that everything is working out beautifully. People will say to me at this point, but you can't say that, Dave. Look at the state of the world. Nobody dies. I'll probably get an awful lot of hateful comments. Death is an illusion. Nobody dies. The spirit never dies. Beyond this dimension of reality and experience, there is reality and experience. And in my experience, it's this dimension that's the hard one. It's this one that's the painful one. Because in the next world, whatever that is, it's love. And I can't explain it. But I know it's real. In fact, it's the only thing in this lifetime I know I can hang my hat on. But what I consider to be a miracle is nothing to a universe, to whatever creates a universe. And when we realize that whatever creates the universe is what we are, you start to realize we're not this limited little fucking random thing. We're the most miraculous event. We get to experience reality. We get to create the reality that we are experiencing. Nobody ever taught us. We didn't go to school for it. We didn't need to. We just opened up our eyes. And away we went. Creating. Using the infinite dimension of thought. Whatever thought is. I don't know. Energy. Whatever energy is. I don't know what any of these words mean. They're just words. Whatever infinite force that lies at the heart of every single thing and creates infinite experiential event reality is really who and what we actually are. And that is something that is spoken of far too little on this planet. Because if you see that within yourself, you see that within everybody else, you start to realize what is meant by soul. And you start to recognize soul within people rather than behaviors, rather than their deeds and their words. You start to realize their divinity. But more importantly, you realize your own. So within this, I remember when I woke up after listening to Sid, I was told there are gifts within consciousness and thought that mankind is not consciously evolved enough yet to utilize. But it's coming. We are going to start using our gift of thought for creating synchronicity.
One of the things that occurred to me, I don't know if it's a good point to say, but I feel like because we've spent so much time as human beings living in our thought of the past or in our imagined future, and we're not in the moment, we miss, we don't notice. And I feel like as we shift in consciousness and we find ourselves more present, then we see and we notice and we're present to what was always there but we didn't see before. So suddenly synchronicities, miracles start to just become every day. So I still feel like you get filled with gratitude every time, but it's, and like as soon as I started experiencing a new reality, a new world, a completely different life after coming across the principles, suddenly I was meeting all these other people that were kind of saying that they've had similar experiences and were waking up and interested in the same things, and books would be given to me, and suddenly a film would come out, and it felt like everything was being arranged to kind of be it. But then I realized, well, it's because I've shifted, so then I'm seeing and hearing and acknowledging a new reality, a completely different world. And I know that when I'm not in a very good mood, like all the things that can go wrong do go wrong, kind of thing. And it's like it can be a domino effect. And then when I'm kind of shifted into a different space, like everything seems to line up, and it's like the stars align that people speak about. But I do feel that's the simplicity of this. Is like, wow, like when we start seeing what we are and not being so interested in what we're not, the ego, the character, the story,
Thoughts and feelings.
all of that stuff, you're just left with what is, and what is a miracle. What's left is unspeakable. So I feel like often when your sister will phone us up, and she's had crazy kind of different synchronicities, we just think that is so far-fetched, and if it wasn't her telling me about it, I'd think it had to be made up. But and then the amount of gratitude she has for those experiences, even though they've become so commonplace, but still, like, and I think that's the wonderful thing about this, is you start seeing where we are. And I think when Sid spoke about going from hell to heaven in a shift in consciousness, like that's what he's talking about. What we're looking for is already present here within us. It's the truest state. And that is one of miracle and synchronicity and all those different things. But I think we can so often be too preoccupied to notice or listen or see. Like, I know there's been times when I've driven somewhere and I can't even remember getting there because I've been so in my head involved in something. And then there's been other times I've been like, wow, I've like noticed and seen beauty that I'd never. I remember going back into the village that I'd grown up in. So I was 23 when I came across the principles. I'd lived in the village since I was 3. And it was like driving into a new village, because I was noticing on top of quite a few of the thatched cottages, there was like animal shapes. So there's incredible thatchers, and then just like the colours of everything. And I was like, wow, like I've lived here my whole life, but I've not seen this place. And I think that's what we're looking for already exists. It's our state of mind, our level of consciousness, the way in which we're viewing that taints it or colours it.
But there was no thinking. There was no thinking, no intellectual, mental stimulation taking place that allowed you to have that moment of clarity and realization.
No, you're just in a different level of consciousness. Different things reveal themselves to you.
You literally walk into different reality. You walk into a different world.
And it's just that. I think I remember being on a retreat once and then saying it's the ebb and the flow, because there are times when it just feels to flow. And that's another way I think of describing the miracles, the synchronicities, just the unfolding, and like, wow. And there's other times like it's pushing water uphill and it's felt sticky and stuck and difficult. But then when you look back, you're like, you can see, for me, I've seen learning and growth and the necessity of that experience too. But it's all just part and parcel of this life stuff. And it gets funny sometimes talking about it, because you think, wow, we can't not talk in concept. We can't not talk in words. And none of it's it really. But it's such a wonderful conversation to be around, because I think we're like dancing around the edge, and at times we fall in. And it's not through the words, it's through whatever it is just suddenly coming alive in us, or it's always there's no words.
No.
Especially not when you're tired.
And I think like I'm going to say this because I feel like I come across this so much. You ask people like, what do you think? Like, you're listening to this conversation, what do you think you're listening for? And they'll go, a shift. All right. And what does that look like? And I remember one man saying, no, I said, what? He said, what did he say? How did it go? It was that fellow who said it.
I want to have the experience you had.
Oh yeah, that's it. I want to have the experience you had. And I said, we can't. It's impossible. That was my experience. You'll never have that. That was one of my mum's moments where she shifted the most, was when mum was out for a walk and she realized, I can't have Dave's experience. I have to have my own experience. That was Dave's experience. I can't have Dave's experience. Like I couldn't have Jen's and Jen couldn't have mine. I couldn't have Cole's or Julie's.
Baby Monsters.
Is it disconnected? You know, and letting go of what we think it looks like, because it doesn't look like anything you can think. So it's not whatever image we have within our mind as to how we will look, should we gain insight, should we gain a realization into the principles, what life will look like, let go of it, because it's not that. That's a prison. That's one of the things, that's one of the thoughts that's actually holding us back from actually having an experience of realization into the infinity of love that we actually are. You know, we create these little prisons, but they don't look like prisons. You know, we had a lady once who did some work with a young girl out in South Africa, and she wrote this thing about, she had to write a thing on Stockholm Syndrome for school. And the last paragraph was beautiful. She said, but we all suffer from Stockholm Syndrome because we've all fallen in love with our captor, the ego. We all defend it. We're always defending it. We're always defending the I'm right thought, I'm right conversation. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things. She was only 16, was this kid. She wrote about Stockholm Syndrome and the ego and how we're all just addicted to defending ourselves, protecting our prisoner. It's only the ego, by the way, that thinks that there's something wrong with us and we need to evolve. We're already evolved. You can't evolve any more than what we truly are, because what we truly are is the infinite source of all experience. There is no judgment. It doesn't see right or wrong, as I had an insight a few months ago when I asked for help. I was given the words in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning after I was woken up. The soul does not measure. Soul does not measure. And that stayed with me. Oh, the soul doesn't measure. The soul doesn't judge a thing. The soul doesn't think we're getting life wrong. The soul doesn't think there's anywhere to get to. It just experiences and knows that every single experience is exactly the same thing. If it's an experience of happiness and joy, it's exactly the same thing as the depths of despair. It's an experience. They're all the same. It's all the same thing. That's what life is. It's a singular thing. Sid was always banging on about it. Jesus banged on about it. All the wise people banged on about it. It's a singularity of life, the oneness of life, not divided up into infinite multiple million parts, billions, trillions, infinite parts. No, that's an illusion. So the idea that there is such a thing as a good experience or a bad experience, that's an illusion. That's a story we're telling. That's an idea that we're dreaming up from the infinite. We're dreaming up the idea that there's something wrong with us. We're dreaming up the idea that I'm not good enough. We're dreaming up the idea of blah, 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 whatever the hell it be. We're making it up, but it's the soul that's just experience. And there's nothing to be afraid of, because it will never get destroyed. It doesn't exist I can snap this pencil, but the soul doesn't exist in that dimension. It doesn't exist in the dimension where it can be broken, snapped, get ill, or anything like that. Dinted, even scarred. It doesn't, none of this is all made up. So whatever we think this needs to look like, just let it go, because that's the thing that's creating an impression that we're not already whole. that thought is creating the reality that we're encountering, that we're somehow not already exactly what we're looking for, which never went anywhere. It never has gone anywhere. Reading messages. Anybody else?
Can you say about the van?
Yeah, I'm interested about that.
But I was just going to say, I realised something last night, that I was absolutely gobsmacked that you didn't kick off. And I think that's,
I was.
I don't think I was worried about the van. I don't think I was worried about even how much it's going to cost or anything like that. I was thinking, oh God, is Dave going to kick off now and be in a foul mood? And he didn't. And I was just like, oh. And then we went to bed really late, and then we've woken up and we've just had such a nice day. We've just like potted, and everything's just been easy on a day when you'd think it wouldn't be. And then we were walking into Booths to get some shopping, and I just said, Dave, she just never fall out again. Like, it's just so nice to not, and like, it feels
We've
like,
got friends that are just forever falling out.
yeah,
haven't we?
we've just spent some time with some friends that
Yeah.
have really fall out every minute, really.
I don't think did they ever like each other?
I'm not sure,
Can't tell, can you?
but it feels so alien, the idea of things feeling personal or getting upset by something. It's been a really weird day, but I also know that at some point we'll totally fall out about something stupid, but it all felt really funny today. Like it felt like the joke of life has been quite obvious.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because, like, I love my van. I call it my van because I drive it. I'm the only one who drives it. I love it. I've made it all out of pallets and all that stuff. And I like it. It's made out of pallet wood, and I think I've done a good job. I'm quite proud of myself. But like jumping in our car and just being so grateful, just feeling that I said to you, I'm so grateful for this car. Like, and just to find that in spite, no, so on one hand, one vehicle's got a catastrophic failure on it. But then to find gratitude on the other hand for other things, other things that I'd normally just take for granted. It's like our health, and that this person who we've been speaking about today, what a gift to be able to, when they come through this, which fairly sure they will, the gratitude and the remembering. This is one of the things I often do to myself is I remind myself I'm well. I remind myself I'm well. Oh, I'm well. Oh, I'm really grateful I'm well. And I try and pay attention to when I'm well. Because when I don't feel well, it's quite often I'm just like, oh, for God's sake. So I really pay attention to when I'm feeling well, and I try and remind myself as often as I can. That's just my little quirk. I like to do that.
So sorry, you said, is there any questions or comments
yeah.
or? Oh, sorry, before that. What I wanted to say is, like, you didn't do that last night. You didn't do it in I shouldn't get stressed about this, there's no point.
No.
You just were present with what was happening. And it felt like it felt very a poignant moment, I feel like I don't know why.
You won't say a turning point.
No, not
because I wouldn't say that at all.
No. Oh,
Because that would just set me up to fail.
oh God, yeah. No, but it was something in me of realizing how much I anticipate something like that happening and you losing your shit. And actually, I don't have to do that, because even when you do, I've been fine, and when you're not, but I don't know. But I've seen that I've probably anticipated that, if that makes sense.
Well,
like I noticed something about myself, like I live in the and with an anticipation, of something like that happening and you losing
I
your.
mean, I stand by it. I am astounded. I'm astounded. I don't know why. It's not like we're minted, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty rough. But
With there's been things that have happened that's so small with the van, like the window.
oh
Think how
yeah,
badly you took the window. And I think that was like 80
I
quid.
could fix that myself.
But it was like the worst thing in the world, and it ruined your next few days in lots of ways. You were so annoyed about it, so
Oh,
shouldn't
that
have
time.
shouldn't have happened to
Sorry.
me. That
That the wind with the wind one.
yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the
The
wind.
wind one really pissed me off. Yeah.
And then suddenly something quite major on the vehicle, which actually you have thought, oh God, I don't want anything major to go wrong with our vehicle. I love this vehicle, and then there was nothing. And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. You see, I've lived in an anticipation of how you might react, and I just noticed it about myself yesterday.
But this
And I
goes
love that.
back to what we were saying to that couple who we assume they must have liked each other 3 times in their lives.
Because they're still, yeah.
But like we said to them, you know, like when you speak to each other, who are you meeting? Who are you speaking to when you speak to them? You know, like when you speak to him, who are you speaking to? Now, are you speaking to him as he stands in front of you? Or are you speaking to him how he behaved 2 weeks ago? Are you meeting the person who was present 2 weeks ago? Are you speaking to the version of him that presented itself a month ago? When you speak to her, who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to her as she stands in front of you today? Or are you speaking to her as who she was presenting 2 days ago? Like when you speak to one another, neither of you are present. You are living in the story, you're living in the past. And I think it speaks a bit to that, doesn't it? It's like, I mean, I stand by it. I'm astounded. I'm really not that bothered that my vehicle's fucked up. And I know that, and even this, people will be going, God, it's only a fucking gearbox. Have you looked out? Have you watched the news? Yeah. No, I haven't actually. I don't watch the news.
Yeah, but think how upset you were when the smoothie went on over you.
That, yeah, I was more upset about that. Like, I just got dressed and just about to leave the house, and my smoothie dropped out my hand, landed on the kitchen
counter.
work surface, and just went, look. I was like, oh, you effing see. And next thing I heard this tiny little voice going, see, 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 see. I was like, oh, for fuck. And then you walk in and go clunk, 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 clunkety clunk, 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 clunkety clunk. And then she started going clunk, clunk,
Clunkety
clunk. I
clunk.
was like, oh God, thank God we dodged that one.
For now.
You know, don't know about anybody else, but I'm mental. I am. I know. Like sometimes the most insignificant thing can appear like it winds me up. And then the most catastrophic thing that we really can't afford, you know, just it's all right.
Just know it's all right.
But I think that's it. You know,
Whatever.
we were speaking about it today, and I said, you know, I just know one way or another it's going to get sorted because that's how life works. One way or another, it's going to get sorted out. My sister's one of a great inspiration for all of this for me, because my sister will break down in some fucking godforsaken place she should never have even been, and she'll be like, oh, I wonder who I'm going to meet now. I wonder what adventure life's taking me on now. She greets all her trials with joy and anticipation of meeting somebody or some event taking place, something awesome happening. She broke down in Mexico, didn't she? Her and Anna. And did they get in separate cars with these men or something?
Or one of them waited with I can't remember.
I remember now the ins and outs, but they ended up going back to this family's home and they sacrificed a chicken for them. I mean, she's like, I didn't want them to sacrifice the chicken. They ate it, but they did a
He's
ceremony.
vegetarian.
Yeah, he's vegetarian, but they did this ceremony around it, and she said, I got to spend this time with this beautiful family. She said, I would never have got that had my vehicle carried on driving. And then they took them, they got a flat tire, didn't they? Sorted out the tire the next day and got them on the road, and off they went. And they made some beautiful friends out of it. And I think if more people could be like my sister, like rather than fighting reality and going against it, embracing it, like allowing the needling.
She doesn't think it should be different.
No.
She sees if it's happening, that's what's happening. And I think we often fight the experience thinking it should be different. This shouldn't be happening. And I think that's, again, comes from just being present with what is. That's a sane mind.
Correct.
There's another example of Lisa that came to mind, but I've forgotten it now.
Oh, bless you, Iona. Thank you, love. It's interesting because Iona's just saying she's been away for 5 years. It is interesting. People tend to go off on these tangents and then come back because, I don't know, I often find that a lot of these tangents are food for the intellect. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, because it's like the principles can become food for the intellect. But I think there's something so simple about the discovery of realizing that we are consciousness. We are infinitely capable of life and experience. And that we are an aspect of a whole that is just utter perfection. There's something so true about it all and simple. No, thank you, Iona. Iona, it's really nice to see you. I'm really grateful you're here, love. Thank you.
Hello, hi. Can I say
Dave,
something?
go for it, man.
Speaking of synchronicity, I've literally just seen your name and said it in my head, and then
I'm still lying in. I should be out by now from bed. It's 7:20 a.m. I mean, it's really late for
What are
me.
you
But
doing? Get up!
yeah, listening to you guys.
Stay in
So
bed,
I'm
mate. I
not
would
gonna
right now.
scurry around the bathroom and put on the coffee and just be present here. That's it. So, no, lovely to hear what you say, and something you said when you were mentioning the tangents. And this thing, it prompted. I got, as I've mentioned here before, for my Fridays at 7 p.m. New York time on Thursday, so I get a good time here on Friday mornings with Judy and Chris Heath and Judy Sedgman from the Three Principles. And one thing, after I think their endless patience with talking about this, and Chris has always said this intellect is your. She talks about infatuation with your personal thinking, but after this, and they were both laughing the week after. She says, we have created our new podcast, and I think this might be just for you. It's called High Intellect or High Intelligence, I forgot, and Low Consciousness. All right. And so I haven't heard it. I'm keeping it for a special occasion. Today's my birthday, by the way, December 3rd. Yeah, thank you. You guys are on the 2nd, but I'm already in my December 3rd.
What happened?
Sorry?
What happens?
Oh, no, nothing. Yeah, I'm just 11 hours ahead of you guys.
Yeah, no, what happens between now and then?
Oh, and you mean you want me to predict for you guys? Nothing. You'll be in your bed. Nothing at all. But so what was I saying? Oh yeah, high
Oh.
intellect, low consciousness. And that struck a bell. I knew it had struck a bell by what I just said. I'm keeping it for a special occasion because I think that's going to be an enlightened conversation for particularly pertaining to my wall of intellect, which you can call it anything, conditioning, because when we were kids growing up in Kenya and in England and everywhere else, I mean, by that time I'd left the kidship, but I was, everything was be clever and make loads of money. I mean, simple mantra, add to the coffers and be extremely clever, not just clever. If you got an A, you want A plus, A plus, A plus. I mean, when I was in rugby or when I was in London School of, but even my school choices, and they're all bloody. Anyway, the consciousness had gone out of the window. I mean, I didn't even know what the hell that meant. Well, what is this? It's just that I was led to look at something. First, starting with AA, 12 steps. I mean, there were 3 rock bottoms. I missed the first 2, but the third one, thank God, 18 years ago, somehow or the other, I stuck it out. And then within that, as they say, the peeling of the layers of onion, you put down the drink. Now what? You're left with you. And this is an ongoing thing, as is a deepening understanding within the 3 principles. And I was led to the 3 principles about a few years ago. The demon, or rather, is a high intellect taking over because trained in it, like rely on it for how to survive life. But totally now the feeling of low consciousness, which can manifest as a continual dread, anxiety, overthinking, it wants to be looked at. Maybe that's the wisdom of consciousness, or the bad feeling about this constant infatuation with personal thinking. The feeling behind it gets louder and louder, nastier. So the consciousness is where you always say it's all consciousness, or I think, am I just quoting it? But this is where my crux currently, right now, December 3rd at 7:30 a.m. is this sort of intellectually wanting to raise consciousness, but knowing fully well it's not an intellectual endeavor or endeavor of any kind. So I just wanted to let it out. High intellect and low consciousness together. I mean, I don't know, I'm rambling on in the morning. So sorry about that. Thanks.
You're good, man. Thank you for Dave. It's always a pleasure, buddy. But I am curious. I'm going to go back to this question that I asked just before, or what I spoke about just before. What does it look like to you? What does life look like to you? Should you enter into higher consciousness? What does life look like?
Ease of being,
Which
not
means, what does that mean? What does ease of being mean?
flowing. I mean, not entering my head nanoseconds before every experience, labeling it, and then immediately descending into anxiety about the whole thing, or comparing it to somewhere else, or judging it, or just flow one with experience, do what's in front of me, and not worry, and not be mired in this dread, low-level dread.
Okay. You see, now that idea right there that you've just explained is flow and lack of comparison in your life. That right there is an idea and a belief that will keep you stuck as long as you hold it. You see, when we have these ideas, of what it's going to look like, who I will be on the other side, who am I on the other side? I don't know what anybody else who's had one of these experiences, but you still have your highs and lows. What's that saying in Buddhism? They say before enlightenment, do the washing up, do the
Yeah.
dishes. After enlightenment, do the dishes. And there's that metaphor as well. I think it's from Buddhism or Hinduism or something about you carry a rock to the top of the mountain. And if you make it to the top of the mountain and carry it back down, no, if you make it to the top of the mountain, you'll find enlightenment. And a man meets a man coming back down carrying a rock. And he says, tell me, what's it like? And the man puts his rock down, looks at him, picks up his rock and carries on walking. Like, it's the most normal thing. But what we do is we create these ideas of some kind of superhuman thing that, and it's because we haven't actually noticed what we are, what's going on. We haven't noticed what's going on. The fact that that Divyesh gets to create reality, the fact that Divyesh even gets to experience anxiety is a fucking miracle in my book. The fact that I get to feel depressed is an absolute inexplicable miracle. First of all, how the hell did we come about as human beings? In fact, how did consciousness come about? What is thought? What is this stuff that we're trying to manipulate and trying to understand? No, what is it? Who are we? What divine thing exists in order for anything to exist? It's like we are already, and it doesn't matter. The only thing that keeps us apart from it is thinking. But you're never actually apart from it. So the only thing that creates an illusion that we're not already it is our beliefs. And if a person is walking around, and I feel that there's two things I want to say about the principles here. One, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. I consider it to be like mycology. So somebody will listen to the principles for like one call. You do one call with somebody, they'll go away, they think they'll know what you're talking about. Unless it hits them in the heart, unless they gain insight, unless they have realization. But the other thing about it is it can create this kind of, it can create more intellect food, like we said earlier on. It can become intellect food. And in doing so, we create these ideas that, that there is this, you'd listen to other people's stories, like my mum listened to my story and she's like, I will only understand it when I have Dave's experience. But then she realized I can't have Dave's experience, I have to have my own experience. But we walk around with these, I see it so regularly, these people who are going, oh, life, they're holding up, they're comparing the world to this idea as to what they think it's going to look like. It's going to look, when I gain insight, when I come out of my intellect, it's going to look like this. This is all the intellect just thinking away. I'm going to look like this, and then it's going to be like this, and our life's going to be flowing. That's one of the things it's going to be. It's going to be flowing. Yeah, I'll know I'm doing life right when it's flowing and I don't experience anxiety, and yeah, that's when I know that I'm doing life right. And this is all still intellectual thought, just going on, just rattling on, prattling on. But the difference between this intellectual thought and other intellectual thought is we don't realize this is intellectual thought. So we're walking around with this idea, this picture in our head of perfection, and we're going, oh, I don't match up to this. Oh, I don't match up to this. Oh, there must be something wrong with me. No. It's not that there's something wrong with you. You are the perfection of life itself. The problem lies in our belief that this thought is telling the truth. That this thought is the truth. No, this thought is like any other thought. It's an illusion. There is no thought that anybody can ever experience that actually has any power. It is no more real than any other thought. The power lies within the being who believes. That's what brings thought to life. So it's not that you're not already, it's like Sid said, he said, you don't lose any things, you just gain. you just gain a perspective on it. That's what happened to
Yeah.
me. I didn't lose my thinking that I don't want to tell people. Actually, it has got a lot quieter lately, I have to admit, but it's like I still can have violent thought, you know, and I still can have inappropriate thought. And every now and again, I still will have thought that I won't tell anybody for fear of social isolation. But what I realized is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. It's not a reflection of me. That's like the ocean mistaken in itself for a wave. I am an ocean. I am an ocean of infinite potential. Now, does the infinite potential have to identify itself? Well, it can only really know it exists if it identifies itself in some form or another. So it's not even a problem. It's the way we actually know we're alive. But what we suffer from is we suffer from the misunderstanding about thought that it's all an illusion. Even the idea that what we think we will look like is just complete fallacy. It's all made up. And I guarantee anybody, the moment they let go of those ideas, they will, and when I say let go of it, I mean realize the truth and the magnitude of the fact that we walk around with these ideas in our head of what our perfection looks like, and it's our prison. It's our prison. But we think it's a righteous thought, but it's a prison. We think it's an enlightening thought, but it's a prison. It's those thoughts. It's only those thoughts that are the things that create the illusion that we're not already, as Sid Banks said, everybody on earth's enlightened, they just don't realize it. And what was it? Ram Dass said something very similar. Ram Dass said something about you don't lose your quirk,
Idiosyncrasies.
your little idiosyncrasies, was it? You don't lose your little idiosyncrasies. You just gain a higher perspective on it all.
Next, I was listening to you, Div. It was like the one thought of your intellect being a problem really preoccupies you, but it's such a gift. Like there's times I wish I could engage my intellect a lot more, especially since I've been Lucia. But you can see that there's different different ideas in the principles, and like people say, oh, if you're very intellectual, you're less likely to hear, and if you're more like this, and it's just all bollocks.
It is all bollocks.
It really, really is. And
when you're ready, you're here. It's that simple.
If you can just recognize the idea of your intellect being a problem, your intellect being this, the fact that you get mesmerized, like if you can see all of that as the same as what do I like to eat? I haven't drunk for 18 years, or whatever it was that you went to AA.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing of how I drive to work, or how I make a cup of tea or coffee, or like this idea that intellect is somehow a problem or a block or a wall. I think you used the word wall. It's like that in itself is just a potential thought. It's just thought popping in. It's not got any reality. The intellect is something. It's not made of anything. The intellect is a concept in itself. It's another word for it is ego. We've all got ego. We've all got massive ego because we're here and we see separate.
But the beautiful thing is the ego doesn't exist.
So I feel like, because I think there's been often you will mention your intellect and it being a problem, and I think actually, what if that wasn't true? It's just a thought you've had that you've taken seriously, and you've gone in search of now something to alleviate that. But it is just a thought, and that feeling of dread is just a feeling, and we then think it means something, and we try and go looking for what is creating this feeling of dread. Is it because I'm too intellectual? Oh yeah, that buys into my story. So then we go round on like a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Like Sid said, it's not. I remember realizing it's not just thought, it's all thought. The whole game of life is thought. It's all thought. And then we'll have an idea of, oh, this portion of thought isn't helpful, but even that's another thought about thought. it's seeing it's all thought, and then it starts collapsing around us because we haven't got anything to stand on or hold on to anymore. My problem wasn't that it wasn't my shyness getting in the way. It was the thought that I thought shyness was a something other than a potential or a thought. Nothing gets in our way. There are no walls, there are no blocks. You're already incredibly perfect with the potential to create different ideas, but it feels like if you start to notice every single thing that comes into your mind is thought, this
Yeah.
powerful stuff, like, but there's an awareness of this constant flow of thought, the awareness that's always been there, it's lived there, it's been part of you, it is you, it's part of me, it is me, like that awareness, that acknowledgement of I can be intellectual, that's where to get interested, not in I can be intellectual. So it's taking out the idea that you have a problem. We don't have a problem.
Yeah.
We just think we have a problem, and we all name it something different, and some seem more severe than others. But it's all just thought bubbles.
Yeah.
And you think this one's more real. It's not, it's a bubble. And at any moment it could just go.
Yeah. You guys make it sound very simple, but it is. It is.
Because it
I
is.
mean,
But you don't get to see us on a day-to-day basis when, I can be like, oh no, Dave, you phone up. I'm too shy to do it. You phone up and ask, or you do it. I don't want to go and ask and have that difficult conversation. That doesn't look like thought to me. I feel uncomfortable.
I'm really pissed off that the windows got smashed on the van again.
Yeah, like you'd see that the ego, which is what the intellect also describes, it's just another word in a way for it, is we all get mesmerized by it every single day.
That's part of the fun of life.
And I think the problem is we start thinking that we're different and we're somehow not getting this understanding, or we're not doing life right, and we separate ourselves. But seriously, if you could, I loved hanging out with people in the Three Principles community for prolonged periods of time because I got to see, oh, they're just like me.
You hung around with some of the top speakers in the world.
Yeah. And but they weren't trying to not be that.
No.
They were just being whatever they were being. But
yeah.
I've created a concept of they've been around it a long time. They must live on cloud nine all the time and never have judgment. I remember once we got to go to a college, I think it was a basketball match. And like some of the jokes and some of the like mean jokes, inappropriate, I was thinking, well, you shouldn't be doing that because you're in the principles and you should be enlightened. And I know it's like, it was almost like my bubble burst of like this idea that there's some people that understand something and they're up here and they're amazing. I was like, you're just like me. We're all just the same.
Yes.
And we all have our funny little ways and things that I wish, oh, if I didn't have this, my life would be so much easier. But when it's not there and I'm busy doing something else, it's not existing. Like we bring it to life with thought, it vanishes with a new thought. Like that, Sid just kept saying it's all thought, it's all thought. And people can get fed up with that. And they think, oh, but consciousness is so much more spiritual and so much more deep, and we shouldn't talk about thought. And I'm like,
do you remember that when it said, when the fellow in South Africa said, talk about mind, the spiritual principle? What? It's all spiritual. Consciousness is spirit, thought, the infinite creator. I mean, how fucking more spiritual do we actually need to actually be? Everybody's trying to find this spiritual experience. They've never actually looked and realized life is a fucking miracle. Oh, perhaps life is the thing that we're looking for. Oh, the fact that I'm alive is the actual spiritual experience that I'm looking for. This right here, right now. Because you don't find life outside of the now. You find it right here, right now. You align yourself with life, you align yourself with the present moment, you will have a spiritual encounter because you'll just realize the magnitude of who and what we actually are. It is that simple. It is that simple. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. But we think it has to be more complicated. And when you look at that, I remember that being the most deep. I used to wonder if there was going to be something. Is there something special about Dave? Is there something special? I wonder if there's something special about Dave. And the day I woke up, the day I realized life, I saw life in a jackdaw just before I saw it in myself. That's when I had my experience of life. And
Was you having a terrible day the other day when you were doing tree work, and I just got your message saying you have a terrible day, and I saw the jackdaw. And
oh,
it's
is that how you did? You sent me a
I
picture.
sent you a picture of the jackdaw.
Yeah, I didn't put two and two together with that.
It's because you're in such a bad mood.
It's such a bad mood.
Sorry.
What was I saying? But no, I remember. Oh yeah, I remember realizing there is something really special about me. I am fucking amazing.
Ooh.
I am, Div. I am so fucking awesome. And I remember it being such a relief. Thank fuck. I am awesome. I am awesome. I am so wonderful. I am the most perfect thing in the universe. Yes. But then so was everybody else.
Yes.
One of the most deeply humbling experiences of realizing that everybody is the same. And we've traveled the world to some mad ass places, done some awesome work in some really weird places and like random places. I can't say weird.
It sounds like some kind of poem or rap that you were just saying.
Was it sound like a rap?
Just because rhyming.
Was it? Did it rhyme? Sheepdog. If I ever become a rapper, I'm going to call myself Sheepdog. Or lemon drizzle or something. Oh no, you've totally put me off. I've lost my rap.
Lemon Rizzle.
Lemon drizzle, great. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, we're all perfect. We're all perfect. I was somebody who was going to take my own life because I was so depressed. And then I realized, fuck, I've created it all. I've just made it all up. And I thought it was all the truth. But I just made it all up. And the moment it just all fell away because it was just made up. I took back the power from my own thinking. I just realized it's not true. What I think is not truth. If it was truth, everybody on earth would see it. They'd have to, because it would be truth. No argument. There'd be not even a conversation around it. We wouldn't need to talk about it. So it can't have been truth.
Should we think about it?
Tell me. I'll give 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
It's just bullshit, Div.
Yeah, I've got a imaginative capacity for story making and bullshit
But that's
creation. But that's fine. But that's fine.
That's what creation is, Div.
Yeah.
And you are no different to anybody else on earth. Anybody on this screen doesn't do that. Put your hand up. Looks like you're in good company, Div.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
No, seriously. I mean it. One of the greatest traits of ego is it believes it is somehow different to everybody else.
Oh yeah.
But it is, and it is. Ego is always going to be different to everybody else because it is the representation of a different experience, which as individualized points of reality create a source beingness. It has to happen.
It's even the idea of an ego is based in time. So you can see it has to be an illusion because we're not based in time.
No.
So it can't be who we are because it's a creation in a moment of I'm this kind of person, I'm that kind of person, but it has to be based in time, and we're not based in time.
Krishnamurti calls the ego A bundle of memories, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah, something like that.
A bundle of memories, the ego.
He also refers to it as it's the past. I mean, he just he's got it pinned down, but that's him. That's his insight. But I can feel, even when you're saying that, I can feel it's the past. It's, it's a deadened thing. I mean, that's my words coming out at the moment.
Cool. You're right, though. You're absolutely plumb. Yeah, it's a thing that has no life.
No.
The life is breathed into it through ourself, via ourself.
And I think we're both so aware of that with Lucia, because she's starting to have like she's full, like she's just like a force. But we've been really mindful of not like telling her what she is.
Mm.
Like you hear people say, "Oh, you're shy, oh, you're full of beans, oh, you're like this." Really mindful not doing that with her, because actually then it feels like she's going to create ideas and concepts herself. But I don't want to keep reinforcing this idea that she's any of her creations. And actually, when she goes to sleep at night, I say all kinds of like, sing her little songs, make things up. One of them that she loves when she's really, really tired and struggling to go to sleep. So I just say, "You're loved, you are loved. You are loved, you are loved.
Mm.
You're free. You're free." Like all these different things, because it is all a time-based thing and we're not time-based beings. And I think as we see that, then we recognize that what we think we're trapped by, again, is just a momentary thought. Like when I felt like I've seen so much and I've shifted so much, but around jealousy and insecurity, oh no, I haven't seen anything. That became my thing, my prison, the thing I talk to, the thing and then at some point throughout every single day, that wouldn't be on my mind. It wasn't an issue, it wasn't a thing. So I hadn't even had respect or gratitude for how often that wasn't appearing as a truth for me.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing, we don't notice or feel grateful for the times where our stories have collapsed and we're just having a nice time. Because then the story comes back and we're like, oh, that story, that problem, that.
I think that's one of the things I love about the gifted time that we've been given to share with the people who have spent time with Sid, is listening to I love hearing stories of Sid and his humanness.
Mm.
You know, he cut people out for years. He's like, no, not going near you. I've done with you. For years, some people. You know, he could, it sounds of it, he could hold a grudge. Do you know what I mean? He could be like, go on, off you go. Bugger off, I don't want to be near you. You know,
Yeah.
but he was a human being, he was a man. But he wasn't trying to escape anything. And this is one of the things, like Jesus Christ was called the living one.
Mm.
Right? The living one. He's the man who found life and spoke, because that's all Jesus spoke. He spoke life. That's all he spoke was life. He explained life to people. That's all he did. That's what Sid did. He just explained life. Because we're so mesmerized by how life's showing up for us that we don't realize the magnitude of life itself. Where the fuck did it all come from? What is it? Who are we? What is this? What is the energy that enlivens a body that departs when the body is finished with? What's that? What is this living? What is it that lives the trees? What is it that lives the insects? What's the thing that puts order into the biome of the earth? What is existence? We're so mesmerized by fucking goings on of our mind and our feelings and behaviors and what the world's doing. We're so mesmerized by that shit. The devil's in the details, as it says. The devil's in the details. The details are our thoughts. The details are our feelings. That is the great deceiver. The great deceiver is our thoughts and feelings, even the ones that we think are perhaps closest to the truth. It's the great deceiver. The great deception. The great deception is we think we are our thoughts. We think our thoughts are the truth. Sid didn't speak about our thoughts. Hi, Louise. Sid never spoke about thoughts. He wasn't interested in this thought or that thought. He was interested in the power of thought, the magnitude of the infinite creative force, whatever the fuck it is. I do not know. Because you can't know it. You cannot know it. Nobody can know thought. People go, I understand thought. I don't. I don't understand anything. I know I don't understand anything because I don't know thought. I can't know it. Because to know it is to conceptualize the infinite. You can't conceptualize infinity, otherwise it's no longer infinity. It's an illusion. But this is the magnitude of who and what we actually are. This is the realization that is starting to occur to mankind, that it is not what it thinks and feels. It's not what it behaves. Those are downstream. Those are consequences of the fact of life itself. And if people realize life, they will have a spiritual realization. God will meet God. When does God meet God? How can God meet God? Because that suggests there's two. God meeting God. There's two things taking place. No, it just realizes whatever livingness is, it realizes it's alive. It notices. But it notices that it is a miracle.
Yes.
And everybody is that. And I don't care who they are. I don't care what they've done. They are that. That's where the power lies. The power lies in just noticing, not doing anything, just noticing. Noticing and realizing. Same thing. Welcome, Louise, love. Come at the last 5 minutes. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Nice to see your face.
Thanks, you too. I totally forgot. I really wanted to be there from the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ordered it for once, so we'll put the recording on the group chat.
yeah, we're starting to
Mm.
record again. Could we stop
Nice.
recording? We'll start recording them again. And
I think it was where the old laptop got full and
is that what it was?
we
Yeah,
couldn't upload anymore using because it was too outdated.
yeah.
I couldn't believe a 2014 laptop was. I took it into the shop. They're like, "That is so old." I was like, "Oh,
But it hasn't got any scratches on.
I've really looked after it." You couldn't even part exchange it. They were like, "We could take it for scrap," so I kept it.
Yeah, so we're just recording these and putting them out, and
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
you click on it, and yeah. No, it's been nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I think Lisa started needing to go to. She doesn't sleep in the day anymore, so generally around sort of from about 5 she should be going to bed. But if I take her down, I can generally get on by about 7:30. So it's nice to be part of it a bit more again.
Does anybody else want to say anything? It's interesting. When all our problems are forgotten, there's no problem. And when I say forgotten, I don't mean erased permanently. I just mean when our minds wandered onto another subject, the problem disappears. The idea of not being good enough, not already being there, intellect being a problem, or the unknown being a foreboding thing. Doesn't exist. It's just a noticing. Because in that noticing, there's so much information. Not information for the intellect. Information about the truth of life. Good. All right. Should we all unmute and sing happy birthday to Div?
Oh, thank you. No, you don't need to. Just as
I think,
your presence.
Colin could lead it.
Cole,
Can you lead it?
Lead what?
Singing happy birthday.
Come on, I get singing.
No, Cole, I'll join you.
We'll join in.
I was on Songs of Praise, you know, everyone.
Happy birthday
To you.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, Div. Happy birthday to you.
And
I know
all
he's
my
singing with his bloody mic muted. Doesn't count.
all my love from Australia. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
No,
And this is the best prezi in the morning.
yeah,
Oh, here.
Bless you, bud.
Being with you guys here. Thank you.
We
Thanks.
really appreciate you coming.
Can I
I
just,
love it.
Dave, can I just say that you're a day in front of us, is that right?
Yeah,
I am.
Well, can I have the winning Australian lottery numbers and then I'll put them in tomorrow?
I've already
I've tried.
texted
God,
it.
I've tried 10 years. I've got $40 worth in 10 years.
I was like,
It's not.
wondering that. I thought, is it possible that? And I thought, no, it's not. Because it's all the now. It's just, we're all in the now, but we're in a different day now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, Catherine. Well done, Kat.
Hello.
Oh, shut up.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.
I love you all. Thank you all so much for being here.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Love ya.
Thank you. That was
Bye.
really mellow.
So yeah,
If anybody's watching this and you'd like to make a donation, please do. It's PayPal, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And that's also our email address. And if you're watching this on catch up, yeah, any donations are greatly welcomed because we need to fix our van. So loads of love to everybody. And if you're watching this on catch up, loads of love to you as well. And thank you very much. Free to share this. And like and subscribe. That's right. Right.
Love
Love
that.
everyone. Take care.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Jane.